Hello and welcome to the Today's Homeowner Weekly podcast. We're here to help you with the challenges we all face as homeowners. I'm Danny Lifford.
And I'm Joe Truini. And each week, Danny and I are here on the podcast to answer any and all home improvement questions.
And we want to hear from you. Send us your questions or comments at todayshomeowner.com/podcast.
Okay, Danny, let's get started.
Today's Homeowner podcast is brought to you by the Home Depot, how doers get more done. This week, we're going to share with you a few ideas on how you can actually convert a window to a door. Think about being able to have access from inside your house more directly to the outside might come in really, really handy. Grout problems, if you have grout that consistently is getting stained or starting to crumble out of there, we'll tell you how to fix that. And if you've ever thought about replacing your under-counter mounted sink, you may go, whoa, that was too much work for us there. We'll tell you the steps you go through to be able to make that very, very easy. Something that's been so trendy over the last few years, barn doors on the inside, outside, everywhere. We'll tell you some of the pros and cons about installing barn doors inside your home. And Joe, what about a simple solution?
Well, I've got a simple solution, how to make an affordable, non-toxic furniture polish for all of your furniture using items you probably have in your pantry right now. And
one that's very, very effective. We've got a lot to share with you. Let's get started. Right now, we want to go to Angela, who is joining us right now, talking about changing a window to a door. Angela, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Tell us all about this. What kind of ideas you had, and what's motivating this project?
Well, it's a game room. Well, a bedroom we converted to a game room 10 years ago, and it needs a lot of updating. So started that, but there's a window there, one window in the room, and it looks out onto this back patio that we have that we honestly do not use a lot, but it's a really pretty space out there. And I feel like if we were able to put a door from the game room out there, I feel like we would use that a lot, and I think it would complement the game room area. But, and the best that we can measure is there's only about a half inch, it's only about a half inch lower than the inside floor of the game room. And so that is our concern. Like, what kind of clearance would you need to be able to put a door?
Okay, so the half inch you're speaking of is at the bottom where the floor inside meets the surface outside?
Yes.
Okay, and so the surface outside's a half inch lower or higher?
Lower.
Okay, well you're good there. That's not a problem at all. The main measurement there to see how hard it'll be is from your inside floor up to the top of the window.
Oh, okay.
A lot of times that will be a little lower, but then again, once you remove the drywall or remove whatever's there, a lot of times that header or that framing member that runs horizontally over the window will be just where you need it, which is around 82 inches.
Okay.
A little bit of leeway there because you have a little bit of spacing that you generally have so that you can make sure the door is nice and square. But the other thing would be the width of that, because if the width of that window, if you can get a door unit which comes with the threshold and all of the weather stripping and the side pieces and such, then that's going to make it very easy for you to remove that the lower part of the window, remove it, and then install that door from the outside. But Joe, you and I have done this many, many times, and
Sure.
Sometimes you need an electrician, right?
Yeah. I guess the best way to put it, Angela, is it's better that your patio is a little lower than a little higher. If it was higher than the interior floor, then it would be more of an issue. But yeah, right now, if you look at it, do you know if there's an outlet, an electrical outlet out to the left and to the right of this window? Chances are there's a cable running under that window. And of course, that would have to be rerouted for the door. So you'll have to have that checked.
Right. Yeah, we have not torn that out yet to see, but yeah.
Okay, well, when you cut out the drywall, just be careful. You want to cut any deeper than half inch just in case, you don't know what's in there until you remove the drywall.
Right.
But yeah, I agree with Danny. As long as the header is up high enough and the window is as wide as the door is going to be. If the door's going to be wider, then it's a slightly more complicated process because, of course, you have to widen the framing to accept the wider door, and that means replacing the header, which is that beam, the horizontal beam that goes over the top of every window and door.
Okay.
But as long as the header's up high enough and the door will fit within the existing rough opening where the window is, that's a really pretty easy. In one day, a carpenter, an experienced carpenter, could probably take out that window and put in the door.
That sounds great.
You sound greatly relieved.
I am. Cause,
Good.
I just think it'll help that, so much, help the flow and everything. But I just was a little afraid. I do not want water coming in. Is the main thing. I just want it to have enough clearance.
Of course. Yeah. Okay. Now, it says here you're from Michigan. You're not from Michigan, though, originally, it doesn't sound like.
Oh, no, Mississippi.
Mississippi. I had a feeling Michigan didn't sound right.
I was wondering that. But you do want to make sure when you install that door, though, to your concerns about water are genuine. So you really want to make sure that you dry fit that door unit in there and make sure you're comfortable with it. Then apply a really good quality caulk all the way around, particularly on the floor, so that you can set that in, that wet caulking, to prevent any of that water from being able to get in there when you have those blowing rains.
Okay.
Okay, well, Angela, thanks so much for being with us, and certainly hope you have a great Christmas.
Okay, you too. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. We all want to get this year behind us, I believe, and remember the good parts about it and try to put the old pain behind us a little bit. So
I'm ready.
That's why escaping and talking about home improvement is always good. We're going to do that right now with Jenny, who lives in Texas. Jenny, welcome to the show.
Oh, hey, guys. I love your show. Thanks for taking my call.
Oh, well, thank you very much. We appreciate that. And we want to solve your problem. Tell us about this grout issue.
Okay. Well, it's actually two problems. So my husband and I just finished a very expensive kitchen remodel, and one of the issues we brought up with the contractor was our concern that the grout around the subway tile behind the sink would eventually stain. And he assured us it wouldn't, and 6 months later, of course, now it has stained. But, now we have an even bigger issue, and that is where the grout meets the countertop, the grout is cracking. And it's not just behind the sink. It's like the entire length of the countertop.
Oh, boy.
I know. So I'm hoping you guys can help me and tell me what's going on, and more importantly, what I can do to fix it.
All right, we certainly can. I'll tell you, a lot of times you have grout issues where, grout is not flexible. It is very rigid. So if there's any place, a lot of times where the grout on the floor meets the bathtub that might flex a little bit, that's a problem. Where it meets the threshold, that can be a problem. And certainly when you have a backsplash that goes down to a countertop, and then you have the influence of the water and so forth around there, there's a lot of things happening right in there. Joe, what do you think on that? Probably in those kind of cases, better to remove that grout and maybe choose the right color and right type of caulk, maybe.
Yeah, Jenny, unfortunately, that might be, I'd hate to say you have to remove all that grout, but that might be the only solution, because when you have a countertop meeting a tile, or like Danny said, tile meeting the top of a tub, wherever you have two different surfaces meeting, that should never be grout, because grout's supposed to only go between tile and tile. In a situation like that, where expansion and contraction is going to be different, the grout's going to crack, and that's what you have. And as far as the staining, the grout's always going to stain right behind the sink, right? Because that's where all the water gets splashed, and soap and dirty water. So that's a really an Achilles heel of any tile job. So what you would need to do is remove that. It shouldn't have been put there in the first place, but remove the grout just along that top of the counter and put in a high quality caulk. And caulk nowadays come in like 40 colors, so I'm sure you can find one that would match very closely the grout color. And as far as staining, if there's areas beyond that where the grout, I would remove any grout that's cracked. But if you do want to replace other cracked grout, Custom Building Products makes a grout called Fusion Pro, which is a single component grout, and meaning you don't have to mix it like an epoxy grout, and that is stain, doesn't need to be sealed, and it's highly stain resistant. So any place you do have to remove and replace grout with grout, I would use the Custom Building Products. But as far as that grout, that joint right along the top of the counter, I think you have to put in caulk.
Okay, gotcha. So
does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I mean, is this something, do you think I can go back to the contractor and kind of force his hand?
How long has it been?
6 months.
Well, you could call him and just ask him, say, listen, I don't mind, this should have been grouted, should not have been grouted, should have been caulked. I don't mind doing the caulking, but why don't you come out and remove the grout? Because that's really the hard part.
Yeah.
Ask him at least if he'd come out and remove the grout. Because if he has an electric tool, either a grinder or an oscillating multi-tool, he should be able to grind that out without too much trouble.
Okay.
Because you don't want to wind up damaging the counter or damaging the tile. So
I know, exactly. Okay, so I have one more question for you guys. So
Okay.
if this becomes a legal matter, are you two going to testify on our behalf?
Whoops, we got a bad connection here.
as expert witnesses, we do have a small fee that we charge.
Oh. You're not going to charge me for the phone call, are you?
We love going to Texas. Yeah, the clock is running. The meter's running there, Jenny. Although we love coming to Texas in the winter, so maybe we can work out a deal.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you guys so much.
Okay, our pleasure, Jenny. Best of luck to you on it.
Okay, take care.
That can definitely be frustrating when you have that. And one thing we probably should have mentioned is that anytime you're removing grout or anything like that, whether you're doing a tub, you hear a lot about people caulking their tubs.
Right.
Once you get all of that grout and all of that caulk out of there, use a shop vac or some real concentrated vacuum to pull everything out of there you can. Then turn around and blow air back in there with a hairdryer, because you want to make sure you get all of that moisture out of there. Joe, how many times have we heard people talking about that I got all ambitious Saturday morning and I want to recaulk that ugly tub, and I caulked it, and a month later all the mold and mildew's back because water is trapped in there. It's going to be pulled back through the surface of that grout, the caulk, and it doesn't matter if you have a really mildew resistant type caulk. If you trap water in it, you're going to have problems with it.
That's exactly right. It doesn't even really have to be water, just the least bit of moisture. If you put the caulk over it, you're going to seal it in. It's completely airtight. And now what? Where's that moisture going to go? Well, it's going to find the path of least resistance, and that's right through the caulk. So yeah, use the blow dry. If you can wait to the next day even, don't use that bathroom, that shower, use another one if you can, but let it dry out 100%. You want it bone dry. And also, as Danny said, vacuum it out is really important too, because you want to get out any dust and dirt, because that might create a little void in there where water can seep behind the new caulk. So you want to get clean and dry, and then you can move on with the fresh coat of caulk.
Time for our Best New Product segment, brought to you by the Home Depot. How doers get more done. The trend in power tools seems to be more power in a smaller package, and the new Ryobi HP 18-volt Brushless Cordless Compact half-inch drill driver kit is a perfect example. Now, it's a half-inch drill, think about that, but it's only 6.4 inches in length, and this tool is 30% more compact and 20% lighter weight than the previous model. Now, that means you can get into a lot tighter spaces with less fatigue. It's also equipped with a brushless mower that delivers up to 400 inch-pounds, and that's of torque for maximum power in spite of its small size and longer runtime on every battery. Plus, it's part of the familiar One Plus system of over 175 cordless tools that all work on the same battery platform. So, if you're interested in this Ryobi cordless compact drill driver kit, check it out at HomeDepot.com. And just they keep raising the bar. And Joe, I know that you've over the years have tested hundreds and hundreds of tools. Are they doing much tool testing these days?
Yeah, absolutely. And, because they're coming up with more and more tools. And, between the advance of the lithium-ion battery and now the brushless motors. I mean, the brushless motors have basically changed. It doesn't get much, it's not as sexy as a new battery, so it doesn't get a lot of press, but the brushless motors make those tools so efficient, and they run not creating heat, and heat is always the enemy of a battery. So with that new motor technology, eliminating the brushes, it allows these tools to last longer, perform better. And the cost is really almost insignificant at this point, because most manufacturers are making brushless motors. In fact, I wrote an article when brushless motors first came out, and I should send it to you. Maybe we can post it on the website, and this way people can get some more information about it.
Right now we're going to New York, and Gemma is on the phone talking about barn doors. Gemma, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Great to be here. I love your show. I listen to it every weekend. It's really fantastic. You guys do a great job.
I appreciate that. We try to pack it in there, try to get as much information as we can. Now, your idea here with the barn doors is something that it's really gotten to be popular as an accent inside or outside homes, but also it has a lot of practicality to it too, because swinging doors all over the house sometimes get in the way. Tell us what you're looking at in your home.
Sure. Well, we're renovating the second floor of our home, and we're thinking about replacing the hinge doors on 3 of the bedrooms with sliding barn doors, like you said. And we just have some questions about the placement of the doors, and then a couple of additional questions about features if you have time.
Yes, sir.
So the first question is, do the doors go on the inside of the room or outside in the hallway?
Well, generally, because of the decorative nature of the hardware and the rails and the sliders and so forth, generally they would go on the outside, the most visible part of it. Nothing that says that it has to, but that way when the door rolls down the track and closes over the opening, then it's closing over the outside of the opening. And so generally that's the way it's usually done.
How much wider should the barn door be than the opening?
I was also going to say, Gemma, that and the other reason it's often in the hallway is because the light switch for the room is often right inside the door on the inside, and sometimes that would limit where you can put the door, because obviously you don't want to slide it over the door, over the light switch. You won't be able to open it. But how much wider? It only needs to be wide enough to cover the opening. Really. So it could be 3 or 4 inches wide, I guess. It could be wider than normal, but they typically make the doors themselves, by the way, if people aren't aware, the doors are just standard doors. Aren't the kit, when you buy a barn door, you're just buying the hardware. They don't sell you the door with it. You have to buy that separately.
Oh, okay.
So you would need a door, though, that's wider than your existing door. Like some people think, oh, can I use my existing door? Well, the only reason you really can't is because right now it's fitting within the opening, right? And now you're going to need one at least a couple inches wider. So, it needs to be wide enough just to cover up the entire opening, the doorway opening, so you don't see any light coming through, obviously.
We don't need a bottom track.
No, it just, the entire thing hangs from what's called the header, the track over the top of the doorway. And of course, that has to be twice as long as the door. If the door's 3 feet wide, the track will be 6 feet, because 3 feet when it's opened, and another 3 feet to roll over the doorway opening.
So our house is a cape, and it's a countryish feel. So what would you recommend for hardware?
Well, I tell you that what we've done mostly is actually the oil rub bronze, so basically almost black.
That's a nice look.
I see that quite a bit, and still the most popular is chrome and brushed nickel for most hardware pieces. But I don't know, that just seems to have a nice edge and seems to fit in with everything to have that dark color on it.
The only other thing I'd mention regarding the hardware is the 2 basic types. The most popular type you've seen that is actually reminiscent of real authentic barn doors are the metal straps that come down the face of the door, and they usually go around the back of the door too, but you don't see it. But so you see these vertical metal straps. Now, if you don't, and that would give it sort of a barn old-fashioned look. Now, if you don't like that, they do make, and the ones I actually prefer are top mount kits, meaning that the rollers are on little flat plates that screw to the very top of the door. So you don't see any hardware on the door itself. You only see the track and the rollers. And that's a little cleaner look, I think. But either way, if you have a Cape Cod style home, I think either one would do. I think I'd probably stay away from any brass or chrome or something like that. It might be a little too contemporary for your home. So the black, the flat black, or as Danny said, the oil rub bronze, I think. And most manufacturers make the hardware in several different finishes, so I'm sure you'll find something you like. Do
you have any suggestions about this self-close or soft close, I guess it's called?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Johnson Hardware makes a soft close. It works great. It's an additional feature, only works on their doors, but the problem is I think they're like $70 each or $80 each, and just the mechanisms would cost more than the hardware. But yeah, they allow the door to close on their own. You get it within 2 inches of closing, and it very slow. If you've ever seen the kitchen cabinets, that the drawers close on their own, it's basically the same thing. It's a nice feature, but I don't know if it's absolutely necessary, especially if you have to buy them for 3 different doors.
Okay, well,
all right.
Well, thank you so much for all your suggestions. You guys are great.
Hey, thanks so much for being with us. If we can help you in the future, you know where to find us.
Okay, great. Happy holidays.
Okay, you take care. Same to you then. Thank you very much. Here's another email that came in to today's homeowner. This is from Judith, and she says, my ceramic kitchen sink is all scratched up, and I would like to replace it. However, it is under the granite, and I was told it would be hard to do. Can you give me your advice? Thanks in advance. You think...
that's not difficult to do, no. I don't think so.
Probably talking about an under-counter mount,
right,
don't you think?
Under-mount sink, right.
Yeah, that's not too bad at all. I mean, usually you will have some fasteners that are accessible from underneath. That's probably the hardest thing is getting underneath there and navigating around. Of course, you can remove your P-trap and your water lines to give you more room, and that'll have to be removed anyway. And then it all depends on whether they use the epoxy glue to put it in place. If so, then that might take a little more work on there. And the thing here, Joe, it's so hard to get your tools in there to really work that. I mean, if you know you're replacing the sink, you're not worried about damaging the sink. So I've seen a lot of people use the multi-purpose tool, the oscillating tool with a flat blade, and just below the lip of the polished edge of the granite is just go in here and there just a little bit and just kind of ease around it like that. You might even want to tape off that edge of granite just for some extra protection and get ready, because if it's a ceramic sink or something like that, it's probably going to be pretty heavy.
Right, and the way you want to keep it from falling is a little trick to this, that you can disconnect the plumbing, so you just have a hole in the bottom of your sink, and you put through a board, like if it's a 4-inch hole, you put in a board that's maybe 6 or 8 inches long, any board, like just a piece of solid wood, put a wire or a rope on it, and pull it up to the countertop, and lash that around a long board that spans the entire sink. So what you're doing essentially is just holding up the sink. So now if the sink falls, breaks free, it won't fall all the way down because these pieces of wood will hold it in place. And from underneath, loosen up those clips. And if you just push on the sink, it usually will pop free from whatever adhesive is holding it in place. If not, then you will have to I would probably start with a stiff blade putty knife. If that doesn't work, then move up to the oscillating multi-tool with the scraper blade, or maybe even a little wood cutting blade will go in there and slice that adhesive.
Let's go back with another recorded call from John in New Jersey.
We have a dog, and he has peed a few times on the floor, and it creates a black stain. And I'm just asking, I'm wondering if there's anything we can do about that. Your thoughts would be appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, of course, John. Well, first, bring the dog outside a little more often. That might help. But sometimes that's unavoidable depending on the age of the dog. But since this is a black stain, and you didn't mention it, but I assume this is a wood floor, which is pretty common because urine can soak into the wood grain and eventually staining it black. I'm not sure why it turns black, but it does. So here's how you want to get rid of it. Cover the stain with paper towel, at least 2 layers of paper towel over the black stain. Then soak it. Soak those towels with 3% hydrogen peroxide, and 3% is the typical hydrogen peroxide you get at the pharmacy. You can read the label, but it'll probably say 3%. But anyway, just soak those paper towels, wait overnight, repeat it. Take off the towels, put down fresh paper towels, and repeat it. And it might take, depending on how deep this stain is set in, how well the wood finish is still on the flooring, whether the polyurethane's still in good shape or not. It can't be in that good a shape or it wouldn't have soaked in. But in any case, you may have to repeat it a few times, but that absolutely works. So you have to be a little patient, but the hydrogen peroxide will soak out that black stain.
Each and every week, we so much enjoy being with you and hope you're having a great holiday week and just relaxing and enjoying it a little bit. And, one thing my buddy Joe likes to talk about is baseball, and he knows a lot about it.
Absolutely.
So just think about it right now. We're in the bottom of the 9th. We're behind by two runs, and looking over to the side there in the batter's box, on deck is Joe Truini. He has a bat in one hand and a simple solution in the other. Let's see what he does. Can we get a home run here one time, Joe?
Let's get a home run. Okay. Well, this home run is brought to you by Simple Solutions. And it's how to make, over the holidays, your furniture might be getting more use and abuse than it normally does. So here's how to make an affordable, non-toxic furniture polish using items you probably have in the house right now. So we're going to start by mixing 1 cup of white vinegar, 1/4 cup of olive oil, and 1/8 cup of lemon juice. Again, that's 1 cup of vinegar, 1/4 cup of olive oil, and 1/8 cup of lemon juice. And you just pour the solution into a plant mister. mix it up really well, and then just spray it onto the wood surface. And then take a dry cotton cloth. I bought some microfiber cloths recently, which I use for everything. They're amazing. You just throw them in a washing machine and you're done. But in any case, any nice soft cloth, cotton cloth or microfiber, and rub it in circles. And what you're going to do is scrub off, use this solution and to scrub off all the dust, dirt, grime, anything that's on the surface. Then use a second cloth, a clean cloth, to polish the surface. And you want to work it back and forth in straight lines parallel with the grain of the wood, in the direction of the wood grain. And that's all you need to do. And that'll work on almost any furniture. It doesn't matter what the wood species is, what the finish is on top of it, whether it's polyurethane or lacquer or hand rubbed oil. Any of that will come out a lot cleaner using this homemade furniture polish.
Wow, that's great. That's just a great example of a good solution to a common problem. You can spray regular chemicals on there or whatever, but why not create your own with what you have in your pantry? You can find out more information about this one and see over 500 simple solutions by going to todayshomeowner.com/simple solution. And now it's time for our podcast question of the week, and we would love to get one from you. You can send us one at todayshomeowner.com/podcast. This comes from Tim, and Tim asks, "Hi, Danny. My downstairs bathroom used to be a half bath with a washer, dryer, and window. We converted it many years ago to a full bath, and we moved our washer and dryer to the basement and framed out the window where the shower is now. I added an exhaust fan for all of the steam. Over the years, the ceiling would get spots of black mold, which seems to be coming from the steam of the shower. Should it be sealed with a mold and mildew blocker, then repainted, or should I rip down the ceiling and green board with it?" Thank you so much, Tim Patno. Joe, I'll tell you, something like that, you just want to make sure that the drywall is not damaged beyond repair. And I doubt it is, in a situation like this. But, boy, cleaning that really, really well, maybe a little sanding, and then the proper primer, I think is going to be the best way for him to go.
Yeah, he said, should I rip down the ceiling and green board it? And I assume he's referring to replacing the traditional, normal, regular sheetrock, drywall with moisture-resistant drywall. Well, I'm not sure why it wouldn't be moisture-resistant drywall now. I mean, I'm not sure who would have put, I don't know if he did it or someone else put regular drywall in the shower. But, yeah, I mean, the only reason to tear down the ceiling and replace it with something more moisture-resistant is if that mold and mildew has worked its way through. And there's no way of knowing without tearing it down. So I think I would clean it really well, prime it and paint it with the best moisture-resistant and mildew-resistant paint you can find, and then see what happens if it returns. And I should say, the other thing you need to do is increase the ventilation, because obviously he's not venting that. So I don't know if he needs a more powerful vent fan, or he should check and make sure it's actually being vented outside and it's not some kind of blockage, there's not a kink in the hose, or I don't know. But that is really important, because it doesn't matter what he puts on the ceiling if this is not really moving that air out. So he'd have to check that first. And assuming it's venting as much air as it possibly can, as quickly as it can, then I would just repair it and then wait and see what happens. If he needs to tear it down, he can always do that in the future.
That's right. Yeah, I think you'll be in good shape. Rarely does it get so bad that it damages the ceiling there unless you have an active leak. So, Tim, I hope that helps you out. And we want to help you out if you have a question. Again, todayshomeowner.com/podcast is where you can go to send us any question that you may have. We also always want to thank you for all those wonderful reviews we're getting throughout all of the platforms that you upload your podcast. We appreciate that. And again, if you'd like to send us any comment or question at all, todayshomeowner.com/podcast. Well, that'll pretty much take care of the Today's Homeowner podcast for this week. Thanks so much for being with us. I'm Danny Lifford, along with my buddy Joe Truini. We'll see you again soon.